Hey, welcome back to another day in the studio. Today we're gonna be spicing up and adding extra flair to a drum kit that is part of a song that I'm working on at the moment that happens to be the result of a collaboration between me and one of you guys watching. Shout out to Joss, which is the one contributing with his guitar for this particular track. So with that being said, let's get into it. Welcome back to Logic Pro 11, and yes, for those of you who are eagle-eyed, this is the second installment in this particular session. We, in a previous episode, worked on this particular section right here, where we added similar vibe or extra vibe to a particular section of a track, but using a sample. In this case, we're gonna be using a sampler. So without further ado, let's listen to the track as it is from this point onwards, and then we're gonna be discussing the techniques that will be part of this session. Here we go. As you can hear, the track has plenty of movement already, but it's kinda static when it comes to the rhythm. So let's begin by applying the first move of today's session. What I'm gonna do is gonna go here to my loops, and I'm gonna look for break, as you can see here already, and I'm gonna try a particular break that I found that I like quite a lot, which is a bouncy break. And what I'm gonna do is gonna be clicking on bouncy break and dragging it all the way down here to this section underneath the tracks. By doing so, you'll see that a new contextual menu appears. And this is the quick sampler. I'm gonna select quick sampler optimized. Now the entirety of the drum pattern has been turned into a loop. And since I selected optimized, Logic intelligently decided that this would be broken apart into different sections, as you can see here. If I bring up the contextual keyword, which is you can bring it up by pressing a command and then the letter K on your keyboard. If you press any of the notes, you're gonna turn the keyboard on your computer into an actual musical keyboard. And before I continue, let me make sure that you can actually hear what I'm doing. I'm gonna select the output to be the sum. Now you're able to hear exactly what I'm doing. So, as I was saying, if I click on it or press any of the buttons on my keyboard, yeah, the entire thing is going through. But that's not what I want, because this is unplayable. This is too many notes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select a beat, or you know what, even better, transient, because we're going to use this as a way for our transient points to be snapped to the grid. And from here, I'm going to go for equal divisions. Much more manageable, right? And since I'm playing on the keyboard right now, I'm going to use the whites rather than the entire chromatic scale. And as you can see here, is represented by this keyboard. So, one thing, you can hear that they are overlapping on top of each other. That's not what I want. I'm gonna go here and turn on the gate mode. Now, as you can see, they are re-triggered every time I press any of the keys. Good. From here, let's do a little bit of sound design. I like what I hear, but it's a little bit too low-endy because, well, we're gonna be playing to a kick drum on top. I'm gonna select the filter, and then I'm gonna probably cut off a little bit of it. Okay, it's starting to get somewhere, but still I'm not feeling it, to be very frank. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn on the flex time button here, which is gonna force the entirety of the sections, the segments of my pattern to follow the tempo, but also it will allow me to change the speed, which is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make it faster. Now it sounds a little bit more like a shaker, right? And that's the whole point. I'm gonna see if I can get even less divisions, probably 12. That's not necessarily speaking good, so let's see. I'm gonna change here, 0 crossing. That one is a little bit too snappy. There is a little bit of a click. Fixed. You saw how I did it, right? Just by moving the particular transient point a little bit closer to the edge. From here, well, I will apply a bit of pitch. I'm gonna push it higher. Kind of drum and bassy, right? Okay, that's kind of okay. So at this point, I feel confident to use this particular sound and to create a pattern so we can begin adding or expanding the sound design elements of it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my project here, and I have two ways to do it. I can simply right click on the track that is the one that is hosting the sound of the sampler, and I can simply click create pattern region, which is going to create a pattern, of course, and that's going to come up with its own sequencer. But that's not what I want to do. Why is that? Well, it's because I can do it in a much more fun fashion. If we click over here, we're going to bring the dark side of the moon of Logic. This is what is known as the live loop section. This is very similar to a sampler, or if I put it correctly, a group box such as Machine or Bitwig or Ableton Live, in which you will have cells containing all sorts of goodies, for example, MIDI, audio, and of course, pattern regions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to create the pattern here. Bam. And by double clicking it, I will have access to the editor, the same as before. But what's the point of this? Let me program a quick pattern, and then I'm going to show you exactly what this allows to do. Sorry for interrupting, but if you are watching all the way down to this point, it means that you are liking the video, so please help us to reach more people by clicking on the like button underneath, and also by leaving a comment if you happen to have any question. With that being said, let's continue. Okay, so we're back. I produced this particular drum pattern, and it sounds like this. Kind of funky, kind of swingy, right? And the idea for it is to actually play alongside the music. Of course, the first thing we're going to do is making everything audible, and the way to do it is by clicking over here. This is deciding from which side of the dual screen setup that Logic presents itself with. Once you turn on the cell loader, it's going to determine if the sound is going to be controlled from this side or the other. And in this case, I'm going to turn this guy on, because you'll see what happens. I'm going to press play, see what happens. As you could see, these cells are now controlled by my own performance, so I can bring it in and out regardless of the position based on where I press them. And if I, for example, create a new cell by copying, then double clicking, and I don't know, let's add this extra bit here, and then maybe remove these guys, so we can have a completely different flair to the sound of our kit. This section, you'll see. I'm gonna go back to that particular point. Here we go. Super cool, right? So now let's commit to the sound. What I'm going to do, or the performance rather, what I'm going to do is turn the record mode on. And the way to do it is by simply clicking over here in this button. And now I'm going to nudge my way back to this particular point, and I'm going to make sure that this guy is set to record. So what is going to happen now is, as soon as I press record, depending on where I click the cells, they will be recorded as part of my song. And I will be able to later work on them. You'll see. Here we go. Okay, it works. But there is something that I don't like at the very end, because the loop kept playing for longer than it should have. No worries, easy to fix. First, I'm gonna click over here, and that means now that Logic is gonna be playing back this section, not this section, okay? And we don't need to keep recording stuff over here. So I'm gonna remove the live loops, then I'm gonna zoom in, and I'm gonna fix this section here. This is the one, sorry. I'm just gonna cut this section here out, done. There is, perfect. So now, I would like to add a little bit of extra flair to this sound, so I'm gonna loop this region. I'm gonna go to my sampler again, and in this case, I'm gonna apply an LFO to the pitch. So the way to do it is simple. First, let's select the target of our LFO. I'm gonna go for the coarse on the pitch, which is gonna be pitch itself. There it is. And if I start to apply an amount, you start to see this particular line appearing on this knob. This is how much it's gonna move. And now it's gonna be actually controlled by the rate of the LFO. So right now we are not synced. Now it is synced to the tempo of the track. Let's see how it sounds like. I'm gonna solo that particular sound. One thing, you see that every time that there is a new switch or the changes or any key of that is part of my pattern is played, the entire LFO is restarted. I don't want that. I want the LFO to keep going. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn off the key trigger, and now it's gonna be continuous. Now feels almost like a shaker, right? Like it a lot. So let's change this, the beat bad to the grid. Super good. I like it a lot. Now I'm gonna play a little bit with my envelope, so I can actually smooth out a little bit of the transitions. By increasing the release tail of the amplifier, we're gonna let some of the samples to overlap at just by a few milliseconds, making it feel less robotic and chopped up. Now, let's add a little bit of extra spice to the sound. I'm gonna add a little bit of modulation. And in this case, let's add, let's see, modulation. Let's try something, what could be good? Something a little bit cooler. Let's go for choral. This is a fantastic plugin made by Native Instruments. So let's play around with it. It's the idea with this is to add a little bit of extra motion to the sound, because once again, this is meant to be like, you know what I mean. We're trying to add rhythm. First, let's get familiar with the sound, and then I'm gonna mix it in with the rest of the music. It feels kind of broken, but in a good way. Let's see how it fares with the rest of the mix. Here we go. That's excellent. I love it. I'm quite impressed with this. And what if we add a little bit of distortion now, or a little bit of lo-fi texture again? But this time around, let's try something different. This is actually a plugin that I recently got that it's super interesting. It actually adds a sample, no, that it's gonna be played on, triggered by the sounds or the output of the volume of your track. I'm gonna press play and then I will elaborate more. As you could hear, if I turn it off, we can bypass the entirety of the sound produced by my sampler, and it will be left with the texture, depending on which one I loaded, right? But the big one is this. If I bring it back and then I have the envelope on, the envelope or the amplitude of the sound coming in, the sound of each of the sounds coming out of my percussive element, are the ones that are triggering the output of the sound effect. If I remove this guy, you could hear, right? It becomes constant. But this is magical. And the fall, it's basically speaking the release tail of the envelope. So we can keep the sound going, but just while the track's playing. So let's see. That sounds cool. Let's see in context. Once again. So cool, right? Now let's add a little bit of reverb to this guy. But it's going to be as much. I'm going to go for a spring. Let's go straight for the spring reverb by... yeah, let's try this guy here. There is perfect. And being a spring reverb is gonna be not that intense. I'm gonna add a little bit of the vibrato would be nice, so I'm gonna add a little bit of it. So let's see. Once again. But you know what? I'm gonna put it right after the chorus. That works, I like it. So the point of this is just to add a bit of reality, you know what I mean, right? Because it felt too organic, not too organic, extremely robotic, but now with these elements, it feels a little bit more lively. Now let's see how it feels with the rest of the music. This section here, I like what it's doing, but it's not correct because it feels a little bit ahead due to the nature of the samples. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go here to view on the editor, and then I'm gonna turn on the inspector, local inspector. There we're gonna have access to the swing. So I'm gonna increase the swing. So I'm gonna push a little bit backwards. Let's see, it should feel better. way better, right? But I think I can push it a little bit more. So let's change the. Let's see once again. There is excellent. So all in all, we improved quite a lot the rhythmic nature of this track just by doing these quick moves. So if you got any question, let me know in the comment section below.